welcome to Everyday Board Game Reviews. I'm your host, Daniel.
And I'm your host, Daniel.
And today we're going to be reviewing Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West, brought by Days of Wonder, and designed by Rob Daviau, Matt Leacock, and Alan R. Moon.
Mm-hmm. This is a fantastic game. It's a legacy version of Ticket to Ride, where you're just playing rummy-style games connecting routes. So you're collecting a certain set of cards, colored-wise, which, by the way, did really well for colorblind friendly. This is one of the first games that really went out of their way to be colorblind friendly because they put shapes on the cards.
Yeah,
that's how simple it is.
Yeah,
and then you play these out, you claim a route, you score your points in a base game. And this one is something different, which we'll get into in a little bit. But we don't want to get into spoilers. We're going to be talking about that in a couple days. So listen for that as well.
Full disclaimer, keep listening if you want to hear about it. We're not going to be talking about spoilers in this episode right now, but we wanted to give you our thoughts and reviews based on our G.A.M.E.R criteria, which listeners of the podcast know what those are. We'll get into that in a minute. Any other initial thoughts on this game? I'm a big fan of legacy games. I do enjoy legacy games. That's no question on that.
Yeah. I do enjoy the legacy games a lot. I've played quite a few of them. Mm-hmm. I love campaign-style games. Something that gives you to keep coming back to the game more and more is something I really do enjoy. I have a couple on my pile of shame. I have a couple in my closet over there that are finished. I am going through like a big group of it with my other game group. In fact, we played it separately, so we're coming in with two different experiences and stuff like that, not together. Yeah. But I'm a big fan of legacy games. I'm a big fan of Ticket to Ride to begin with. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ticket to Ride as well. And out of all the legacy games I've played, I played all of the Pandemic Legacy Season 1, 2, and 0. I played Charterstone. I've played Manchikoro Legacy. I've played Clank Legacy and Betrayal Legacy. And a few others that are escaping me right now. Zombie Kids, Zombie Teens, I've played those. And so I'm a fiend for legacy games, and I've always been trying to capture that same high that I've been wanting to ever since Pandemic Legacy Season 1, which was one of the first games that ever almost knocked out my number 1. It came up to number 2.
Yeah, no, I prefer a lot of them. And in fact, we both love Pandemic Legacy Season 1. We have reviewed it, so go check that out. I liked this one more than I liked Pandemic Legacy Season 1. Because there is more stuff like, we'll talk about it. And if you like our spoiler cast that we're going to be talking about sometime later and go watch that video, we may release a spoiler cast of Legacy Season 1.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Pandemic, before we could talk about that as well. So we'll see how this does. But with that being said, we're going to go get into our review. How we do our review is we made our patent-pending G.A.M.E.R criteria that we use for our top 8 debates, as well as our board game brainstorms, to give you ideas of how we feel about this and to take our bias out of this. This is the best way we could take our biased unbiased review here, because we have our own biases when it comes to the game.
True, we do.
We try to use our criteria, which also have sub-criteria, which we'll explain as we're going through the review. The criteria is pulled up over here. You have the coin of doom. This is going to determine how we is going to do it. What are they getting when they get a criteria?
So, you have game immersion, art and production, meaningful choice, ease of play, replay value. Those spell out the word gamer, and I started us off, so I'm going to start us off with game immersion. So that breaks down into 3 sub-criteria. Each one of these has 3 separate criteria that we base it off of. And again, it either gets a yay or a nay from each of us.
No, it gets a Daniel.
A yay or nay from us, and then if it gets a yay from one of us, that counts as a Daniel point, giving it up to 5 Daniel points each. 5 from me, 5 from Daniel, and a score out of 10. So 0 to 10, that'll help you determine if you think this game is good for you. So back to game immersion. First off, is the game fun to lose? Player interaction, i.e. table talk and role-playing, and memorable moments. So legacy games make it really easy to go into the memorable moments, right? They're full of an advent calendar full of surprises. It's like Christmas. You're opening up these gifts, these boxes, these sealed containers, these new rules, these new experiences that go throughout a potential storyline in the game. And so memorable moments, it has that because like most legacy games, and from Rob Daviau, one of the creators of, or the creator of Legacy really, games, he really knows how to bring those moments. And there were some moments in this game where we're like, whoa, what in the world is this doing? Even from the beginning, again, this isn't spoilers, you just start with a much smaller version of the map, and you're playing a really quick experience. And as you are expanding your rail lines throughout multiple games, you're getting a bigger map, right? And you're getting more regions to explore.
And honestly, that's not a spoiler. It tells you in the back of the box.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. So just the fact that you're going to get more and more stuff that gets added in. So that is always fun. Player interaction, Ticket to Ride does have that through mechanisms. But in this, you do also feel that way as well, because there's a lot of times where you are staring dead-eyed right at a track, and you're just trying to will it into existence that nobody goes there. And then when somebody goes there and blocks your way, you look at your cards, you're like, all right, how am I going to recover from this? I'm never going to financially recover from this. And so that's always fun. Is the game fun to lose? I think it is fun to lose. However, I will put the fact that we played this as a 4-player game experience, and my wife who played it didn't win a single game until like the last one, and she had an absolutely miserable time. Often because it was just like so heavily handed against her. So I can't give it a point for the fun to lose part, but I do feel it has the memorable moments and the player interaction, so I will give it a Daniel from this.
All right, so when it comes to the game immersion, my wife had a completely same experience as your wife, but with a different reaction. She loved this game, even though she didn't win for like the last couple rounds or something like that, because I think at most you're going to play like about 12. I think it's like 10 or 12 games.
It's 12 games, yeah.
Yeah, like and it tells you straight out of the box, it's like, this is it. You're playing these games.
Yeah, and you can keep replaying it afterwards, but you just don't open new experience.
But my wife didn't win a lot. She got in second place quite a bit, and she was getting in a lot of the money aspect of it, or points aspect of it. So it did work well for us. That's what I'm saying. It's got that different criteria on there. It's like, we're coming from two different experiences. Your wife hated the fact that she wasn't winning the games. My wife likes to win games, but she's like, I'm still enthralled in this game. So it does lend to those memorable moments. Especially go to our spoiler cast to find what we're talking about when it comes to these memorable moments, because we don't want to spoil it for people who just want to look at the review. It does have the memorable moments. It does have the player interactions. How many times I got cussed out by certain people at the table because I took a track that they were trying to go for, and I'm like, I had to go this same route. And there was points where 3 people were trying to go into the same route, and one person's just playing by himself somewhere like in the southern region, while everybody's up in the northern region fighting over things. So it is really, it leads to those player interactions, those memorable moments. So for me, it does get a Daniel for game immersion.
All right, next we're going into art and production, the A that's in our gamer criteria. And that accounts for a few things that are some, subjective, but we try to take our bias out of it again. Art, pieces and components, and graphic design. Graphic design really kind of caters to, is it icon heavy? Is it hard to read? Is it colorblind friendly? Hint, hint, because we're colorblind both. So this, I got to give it. This is probably the one that I think most solidly stands by, gets a Daniel from me, just because, with legacy games, it's really easy to give you that surprise, that awe, and that surprise moment. There's even one component in here that's a nod to components in other games that I was like, okay, that's silly. I like that. And again, that's not that big of a spoiler. I mean, I guess it's technically a spoiler, but it's such a minor thing that you're not going to know until you're playing it. But because of components like that, and just those experiences, I got to give it pieces and components. And there's one component in here that technically wasn't needed, but really helped the experience, helped elevate it.
Yeah,
so
I don't disagree on that.
And I appreciate the fact that they included this in the game to help bring out that just the ease of life, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. That is one of my favorite components. That really is not that important to the game, but it just brings out.
You could have done something else.
Well, we were just last one. We were talking about the game immersion. That brings out the immersion for me as well. So, the art is fine. The cover's nice. That's mainly most of the art you're going to see in this game, because it's basically a Ticket to Ride. The trains are going to be nice. The different stuff that adds to the game have some really neat artwork to it as well. So it has that aspect. The pieces and components are great. It's a Ticket to Ride. You got your plastic trains. They're really nice to look at. The boxes, the stuff that you get out of the boxes are really cool. The map is really nice looking and easy to read, easy to digest, how to find what you're looking for, especially if you're familiar with American geography. It is a fantastic, and the graphic design, I mentioned it earlier, the colorblind, from something that started in 2004 was the first Ticket to Ride. The fact that they've been colorblind friendly since then Why is nobody else doing that?
Right.
That's what's my ridiculous moment of like, we're in 2025. They've been doing this for 21 years, and we're still struggling with colorblind unfriendliness. Yep. Come on. Yeah, come on. So this is an easy Daniel for me as well.
All right, next one is meaningful choice, the M that's in our G.A.M.E.R criteria. And this breaks down to impact on other players' strategy, or impact on other players, depth of strategy, tactics, or skill, and do arbitrary choices and AP impact the gameplay. Now, this does not get a Daniel from me, and I'll explain why. First off, as with base Ticket to Ride, you are beholden to how the cards come out, and you're trying to get sets of cards to lay down the tracks. That is no different than in base Ticket to Ride.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. Sometimes you do and don't get the cards you need, and sometimes people take over the stuff that you need before you. The big problem is, and again, as you know that you're expanding the map in this game, there was often times where people would get tickets to places that are new and incentivized to go to for various reasons, and yet they don't get tickets that abide to that. So while other players are kind of like bottlenecked into one section and fighting over smaller areas, that could lead a runaway leader for people who have those options later on. And I know people can argue, it's like, yeah, well, you could just draw more tickets and plan according. Well, but it's also because of the nature of the way the legacy works. That's not entirely true in this version.
Yes.
And so because of that, the depth of strategy, tactics, and skills is still there. If you like Ticket to Ride, you're not going to lose that experience. And also, because of the way this thing expands, again, listen to Spoilercast if you want to know why more specifically, it can lead to hard AP in this. These games, when we were playing in the later parts of the games, it was 2-3 hours at a time. It's a significant jump from the very beginning when you're playing 15-20 minutes to a much longer experience. And that's just the nature of the beast of what you're doing. But because of that, I can't give it meaningful choice.
All right, now I'm going through this as well on the impact of other players. There is some impact on other players based on the way the cards play out, the way you have to basically maybe even block people because they're going to get in the way of the route that you need to climb to. Say there's different tickets that you have that go to the endpoint is one of the same cities you have to go to, and your other city is maybe in the same general area where their other city is, and so you're basically competing for that straight line. So say you're trying to go somewhere like Atlanta to Chicago, and they're trying to go from Atlanta to Cincinnati or Detroit or whatever. I'm just throwing names out there, or St. Louis. That's a good one because they're right in that general area.
Yeah.
And you're competing for those lines to get there. Like, do I fight them for this spot or go around? So there is that on the impact. Right. The depth of strategy, tactics, or skill, there is a little bit to it, but it's not really there, again, because it goes to the next point. Arbitrary choices in AP. Now, I didn't have the AP problem. Towards the back end of the game, it may went an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, but that's the nature of how big the board is getting throughout the game. Whereas we didn't have a lot of AP aspect of the game. We knew what we were doing based on certain things that was happening. Ours is more of the arbitrary choices when certain things are not coming up, or 3 locomotives come up and then everything's wiped and you're like, no, I needed that yellow one that was sitting there because I can finish it or get one of those things. That's where I have a problem with it, and I'm not going to give it meaningful choice either, because you can't really strategize, you can't really have good tactics, there's not really good skills, because based on card draws. That is the main course of this game, is the card draws that are coming out. Yeah, there's a tableau. It's like, but none of those colors are what I need. Let me draw blind. Oh, great. There's another green
even
card.
More I don't
Let me draw blind. Oh, great. There's like
and then
4
of course
greens.
It always pops up on other people's turn. Like, I get that one. I guess.
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. And so that was my big issue, is that there is a lot of arbitrary choice in this game, but that's the crux of Ticket to Ride too. There's
Right.
There's less mitigation in this one, though, because of the ever-expanding legacy aspect of the game, and especially with certain things that happen throughout the game, which we're, again, go listen to our spoiler cast when we're going to talk about that. And I'll get into that kind of stuff when we get into the spoiler cast. But so I agree with you. It does not get meaningful choice for me as well.
And just to, not to harp on it, but just to add a little bit more clarification, there's like 3 different types of Ticket to Rides, not including this, right? Mm-hmm. There's the mini city versions, there's the base game Ticket to Rides, and then there's like big ones like Rails and Sails. Rails and Sails is one I no longer own because it did the same thing, but it also made it twice as long as it needed to be, and without any extra benefit. And there was times where it felt like that in here.
Yeah, and moving on to in Gamer, ease of play.
Ease of play.
And I get to start first, and this is simplicity and familiarity of the mechanism, the likelihood to get to the table based on the mechanism or the theme, and is it easy to learn, understand, and or teach. And so this is going to be one of the easier Daniels for me because it's Ticket to Ride. And people are like, okay, I can play Ticket to Ride. And then you're like, oh, it's also Legacy. Okay, that's the likelihood to get to the table because we're all big fans of Legacy. My game groups that I've been playing, we're big fans of that. So right there, those 2 points there. And what I like about this game is that it is easy to teach, learn, and understand because Ticket to Ride is an easy game to teach. It's an easy game to understand.
Yep.
And what else is nice about this is that when it introduces new rules, it just integrates so smoothly into this one. So the first game you're playing is basic Ticket to Ride. You know how to play this, just like in Pandemic, it's basic Pandemic. You know how to play this. Now let's add this rule. Now let's add that rule as you're going through. So it's not something that's overly complicated for you. It's like, oh, it's only throwing a little bit at me at a time. Then when you get to the last part of the game, there's all these rules, but you've played enough where all the other rules that you're like, oh, this is perfectly fine. I know how everything works. And then it's easily distinguishable as you're going through the game because it tells you to add these rules when you need to add these rules. And so I think this is by far the easiest, Daniel, for me.
This isn't the easiest for me, but it will get it, and I'll tell you why. Simplicity and familiarity with the mechanism. Again, Ticket to Ride is a fundamentally really simple game. Yeah. But it's based off of G.A.M.E.R, which is also a really simple game. It's a set collection game. Is it easy to understand, learn, and teach? Yeah, I can teach Ticket to Ride really easily. It is incredibly simple. You do 3 things on your turn, and this doesn't change that formula all that often. But the problem that I have is likelihood to get to the table. As much as I love legacy games, and my game groups will play legacy games, I have found more often than not that is the minority. Legacy games are awesome in almost every aspect that we played of them, but when you say that something is somewhat consumable or you're permanently altering your game, that puts people off so hard. And as much as I want to argue against it, I get why people do that. If they're paying, this is like $100. So, and when they see that you're making permanent alterations, they think it's disposable or consumable. It's not. You can still keep playing it, but again, that's a very different thing that will put off a lot of people.
Yeah, but these are the same people that don't like app integration either. So
sure, you're probably right. You're not
get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn. I think that's I
get what you're saying.
And the problem that I have with it is not because of that. Like, I love Legacy, but if you're one of those people that are cautious about Legacy, you're not gonna pick the $100 game to figure out if you like it or not. You're gonna find a cheaper one that does the experience for a lot less, so that way you can tip your toes in the water.
Yeah,
that's the only thing it doesn't get for me for ease of play, because I think that's off-putting for that extent. But simplicity and familiarity and easy to learn, this does get a Daniel for me.
Nice. All right, and finally moving on to our last one, the R, which is replay value.
And replay value talks about the length of time and scaling well, minimum number of plays for the full experience, and expandability, whether there's already existing expansions or confirmed by publisher or designer. There's obviously no expansions for it, but I mean that's obvious, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there will be, but they don't tend to make the expansion for it. In fact, this was actually supposed to be published many, many years ago, like 8 or something years ago, during the highlight of Legacy games.
Yeah.
But they had to put it off for whatever reason. Minimum number of plays, that is a win for me. I mean, it's a minimum 12, no matter what, right? That's cool. But length of time and scaling well. This is where it's tricky, right? You know, it doesn't take, the first, 2/3 of the games combined will be about the same amount of gameplay as the last third. If you take that in gameplay, it does handle up to five players. Yeah, 2 to 5 players, which is standard for Ticket to Ride. I think that's very decent. And I think the first games, the initial average is probably that of Ticket to Ride. So I'll give it replay value, but just barely.
Yeah, for me, when it comes to replay value, the length of time is scaling well. We've never had a problem with it. We've always played the same 4 people. It got longer, but you're adding more to the game. So that's about to happen. I mean, Pandemic Legacy tended to get longer depending on how far we went along into the game, depending on what was being added and stuff like that. So I'm not going to detract from it. Some games were quicker, some games were faster. Yeah. It was neat. Minimum number of plays for the full experience, 12. And then I can't give it expandability because there's no expansions, but what can you do? But yeah, it gets the 2 out of 3, so it is giving a Daniel for me.
All right. So with that being said, out of our 5 G.A.M.E.R criteria, Daniel and I can each give it 1 Daniel each for each of those 5, giving it a total score of
8 out of 10.
Very good.
The only one I didn't get 2 from was a 2 negative, was Meaningful Choice.
Yeah, that's really what it boiled down to. So again, hopefully that'll give you an idea on our thoughts and if this is a game that you would like. As always, if you want to ever check out any of our other stuff, we're on pretty much every social media platform, Instagram, Twitch.tv, YouTube. Check us out wherever you find your podcast stuff. And as always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.